Welcome to the Pharmacy Leaders Podcast with your host, Tony Guerra. The Pharmacy Leaders Podcast is a member of the Pharmacy Podcast Network, with interviews and advice on building your professional network, brand, and a purposeful second income from students, residents, and innovative professionals.
Hey, welcome to the Pharmacy Leaders Podcast. Today we have Haley Ward, a third-year pharmacy student at Nova Southeastern University-Palm Beach campus. She began her pharmacy path in Miami, where she worked as a pharmacy technician. After beginning pharmacy school, she began working as a pharmacy tech, then interned for Lawnwood Regional Medical Center. As part of Nova Southeastern University, she's actively involved with NCPA as well as APhA. Welcome to the Pharmacy Leaders Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Haley, we always want to start with a little background. Everyone's leadership road is a little bit different. Can you tell us a little bit about where you started and how you got where you are today? But maybe start with late in high school, kind of how pharmacy came into your life.
So high school was a little different for me than for most. I decided I didn't want to do the whole 4-year track. So I spoke to my counselors and asked them, how can I get out of here as fast as I can?
That's great.
Yeah. So I was already taking a lot of AP classes. I was taking 4 out of 8 AP classes. And they told me, well, if you want to get out of here, you have to do night school. So I did all of my senior year at night school and I graduated a junior.
Wow.
I went to Miami-Dade College for my undergrad. And I started working at a funeral home when I was 16, which might sound weird to a lot of people. And after doing 4 years there, I kind of saw my life and I looked around and I was like, am I going to be a funeral director? If not, then I need to look for other opportunities. And I bought a book on Amazon and I took my pharmacy technician exam. So I got certified. I studied the book and I got certified. And after I got that, my mom kind of forced me to go into every pharmacy around town and apply. And I had an opening at Universal Arts Pharmacy in Hialeah, Florida. And I got my technician hours there. So I was fully certified and worked for them until I got accepted into Nova Southeastern University. So pretty much they were my basis of everything that I knew about pharmacy. I got to learn a lot by working as a technician and I moved into marketing and a lot of different other aspects of the field. So I got to see a lot. They let me do a lot of hands-on work, which I appreciated a lot. And then once I started Nova, I asked for a transfer and I moved to West Palm Beach to the smaller campus. And pretty much that's where I am now.
Okay. Well, mi papá es peruano, so my dad's Peruvian, and he came with me as I went to pharmacy school, and I mean that quite literally. Like, he was there with me for orientation. He waited 7 hours for the PCAT, and then afterwards he's like, "Well, how'd you do?" I was like, "Well, Dad, they don't give you the scores right away." But can you tell me a little bit about? It sounds like your family was very integral in helping you start your career, even if it was pre-pharmacy. Can you talk a little bit about how family was important to you before you even got to school?
Absolutely. Well, I'm Cuban, and in our culture, you live with your parents live with their parents, and that cycle pretty much continues. So my family's the core to everything. And like I said, my mom pushed me into job interviews. And I can say that's kind of a millennial thing where a lot of people think that, our parents hand feed us. But I'd say that just support during my PCAT, I was terrified when I walked out of there. I thought I had
with
failed
4 AP classes. You thought you failed the PCAT. Okay.
Hey, it's a long test. It's scary. But just having the moral support at home and somebody that my mom didn't accept no as an answer. If you were getting a B, you were doing bad, which I appreciate now. And I see it with my daughter. I feel like I'm going to be the same way.
Oh, no.
It's good. I mean, I moved here from Cuba. I was actually born in Cuba. I moved here when I was 5 years old. So I consider myself American because this is all that I know. But it was hard. I had to learn a new language and, we had no family here. So we had to start from zero. Which was very interesting in the school sense. My mom had to help us with our homework by using a dictionary. So it was an interesting path, but she's always been there. She's always been our backbone. My sister's in medical school. So It's definitely helped. She's been a helicopter mom from the beginning, and I appreciate every second of it.
Oh, that's fantastic. My dad, he was the first, he was the oldest brother. He brought all of his brothers and sisters here from Peru, and he worked very hard to put us in a neighborhood. They couldn't afford any kind of like window drapes, so they had not curtains, but they had sheets on the windows for 2 or 3 years. And then I think their mortgage was like $300 a month back in the early 70s. But they were absolutely terrified, and they just got us into the best neighborhood, the best schools, and they just got us around. They say over and over again that your zip code matters so much, but I feel like it's that your family is in that zip code with you, helping you along. Well, tell me a little bit about this family that you've developed at Nova Southeastern. It sounds like you've gone into one of the smaller satellite campuses where you get a completely different feel. It's almost like, I know you're at a private, but I feel like the privates, you get a really the attention that you would really love to have. Can you tell me a little bit about the smaller campus?
Yeah, I absolutely love it. Like I said, I got accepted into the Fort Lauderdale campus, and I was kind of terrified because I came from Miami-Dade College, which wasn't too big to start with. And once I got my transfer, I walked into the Palm Beach campus, and first of all, I fell in love because it's a brand new building.
Oh yeah.
And then, as classes started, it was so nice because it's such a small class size. We interact with with the Davie campus because we have the broadcasted lectures, but we do have facilitators who are in-house, and the interaction that we get from them and the studies review sessions, and just if we have any question, we run up right upstairs and have somebody there to answer and actually sit down and explain versus, a class of 200 that, the facilitators know our names, they know who we are, we interact on a daily basis. So I feel like personally for me, that has been the best part of it, being able to run upstairs and any doubt, anything that maybe I missed in lecture and I didn't understand. And we do have the ability to email our professors, but that, face-to-face contact is what I like the most.
Okay.
And since we're such a small group, they have that time to dedicate to us.
Now, usually when you're thinking about smaller campus, you think fewer opportunities. But tell me a little bit about this fair that Scott Kjelsen had put together, or that Nova Southeastern had put together, because it sounds like you're one of the campuses in this country that actually has the most opportunities based on what I'm hearing about this job fair and the connections that you're making down in southern Florida.
Yeah, absolutely. Nova has their mission statement for us within, which is a running joke. It's, it's one NSU. There's no difference between the Palm Beach campus, the Davie campus, or the Puerto Rico campus. We're all there to help each other. And that really comes out when they plan events. Dr. Kjelsen definitely went above and beyond for this future summit. At first, the Palm Beach campus, a lot of people hadn't signed up because we didn't know how we were going to get down there. But he coordinated and had a shuttle pick us up from the campus and drop us back off, which made the travel of an hour and a half a lot more feasible for many of the students. So, this event was incredible. We sat down at first, and it was a big auditorium. There was a panel of pharmacists who talked to us about their pathway and how they got to where they were. And after that, we were able to interact with so many pharmacy companies. I honestly don't even know the number, but it was different booths, and CVS was there, Walgreens was there. Every company you can think of. And that's actually how I met Todd and the Pharmacy Podcast, which was incredible for me. But I just feel like we're not neglected. You hear small campus, like you said, and you think lack of opportunities. But even within our own campus, our organizations planned so many events so that we're not left out, so that we have the same opportunities as, a school that has a class of 300 or 400 students. So in that sense, we definitely have a lot of help.
Okay, well, let's talk about your the digital space, Todd Yuri, and I met him by I interviewed with Erin J. Albert. She just wanted to talk to somebody who had gone out of retail or gotten out of retail. I hate to say getting out of retail because I wanted to go to something different. It wasn't like I escaped some prison or, I was looking out the drive-through window and going, when will it be my turn? It really wasn't like that at all. I enjoyed my retail experience. It was time to do something different. And he had me start the Pharmacy Future Leaders, and I connected with a lot of people. And then I said, I want to go and create this podcast so that I can interview 3 to 4 people a week. And he's like, that's a lot. So, he let me kind of go do this thing. And then he wanted somebody that could reach out to other people. So tell me, when you met him, how did that come about? How did you end up becoming part of the Pharmacy Future Leaders and the host of it?
So, like I said, I was at the Future Summit event, and I walked by the table and I saw a podcast. And I mean, I'm Cuban, so anyone that knows a Cuban knows that we love to talk. So I walked by the table and I kind of glanced back and I walked back to him and I said, what do you do? Are you a farmer? Are you just here recording, or what do you do? And he told me about the podcast, and he told me how, it's dedicated to the field of pharmacy. And I was like, well, where do I sign up? So I started asking him questions, and he was like, are you interested? And I said, well, yeah. What are the details for? And he just told me that he was planning the relaunch of the Pharmacy Future Leaders, and kind of just did an interview there on the spot where he asked me about the event. And the day after, I shot him an email early in the morning. I was going to make sure he hadn't changed his mind, So I sent him an email and I said, I'm still interested. And then we did a mock recording. And then after that, we just kind of kept rolling with it. And here I am. He hasn't gotten rid of me yet.
Well, tell me a little bit about how you involved your classmates, because that's the first group you reached out to, and then how they responded, and how you kind of chose the first topics. And because I was like, oh my gosh, I should have thought of those topics, and I didn't. And you were talking about some of the introductory experiences, and I completely forgot how you really don't know what's coming up.
Exactly. Well, so Joanne, she had been on the summit as well. She's a P4, and I actually didn't know her until Todd introduced both of us. So she had actually reached out as well. And we kind of just hit it off from there. And Jamie and Lewis, they're actually in my campus. So I spoke to them and I said, well, guys, we're about to go into rotations. Jamie and I are in the same class. So we were going to hospital rotations, and Lewis was going to his first community IPP rotation. So I said to them, what's more scary and interesting for a student to listen about than to hear about the IPP rotations. They're going to face this and they don't know what to expect. So that's kind of where that came from. And then Joanne, she's the word of wisdom. She's already been through it all and about to graduate. So it was definitely important to hear her points of views when it came to the matter.
Sure. And then from there, though, I was really impressed that you started reaching out to other campuses, other leaders across other campuses. Can you tell me a little bit about some of the other people that you've interviewed, some of the episodes that you've done that maybe people can go to the Pharmacy Future Leaders and listen to you interviewing those other leaders, like from Colorado and so on?
Yeah, absolutely. So I interviewed Lee, and he's from the University of Colorado, and he did his rap, which was absolutely interesting. And if anybody hasn't heard his rap, definitely go on and listen to it. And it was just interesting to see what other schools were doing. The first thing that I did was set up the Instagram for the Pharmacy Future Leaders, because I did want to that outreach. There's really no other way besides social media to get across unless you're going to conventions or networking like that through the school. So I was able to link up with them through Instagram. And so Lee, Whitney, and Kevin. Kevin's a different story because I kind of stalked him before I started on YouTube. He's a YouTube personality, so I kind of saw him from there. But yeah, it was just interesting for me to see, Florida is such a melting pot of different people. So I didn't know what other schools do. And it was interesting for me to have that interaction with them. I've learned so much already from the few interviews that I've done. And yeah, it's just, that was my point to go out and find people who were doing things outside of the box and trying to make the profession progress.
Okay. Well, to listen to you and to all your energy and all the things that you would do, you would think that these are only your responsibilities, but you're also a parent. And so I have my almost 7-year-old here in the room with me. She's sick, so I had to keep her at home while my wife goes to work and the other two go to their daycare. Can you tell me a little bit about being a parent in pharmacy school? I found that the parents when I went to pharmacy school actually got much better grades than those that maybe didn't have responsibilities. And it's counterintuitive, but in some ways, maybe it makes sense. But can you tell me a little bit about what it's like to be a parent?
Yeah, absolutely. In the beginning, I was terrified because, the pharmacy is such a tough curriculum, and I didn't know how I was really going to do it. And I do have a lot of support at home. So that's the main thing. If you have a strong base at home, then you can do anything. And another thing that I did immediately is, I got a group. I have a friend, Amy. She's also a mom. We're the two moms in the class. So we kind of grouped up together. And since day one, people would look at us like we were crazy. Since after the first lecture, we began to study the first lecture. And everybody was like, we don't even know when our first exam is. But pretty much in my mind, just failure isn't an option. I have a 4-year-old and a family to answer to. So it's not, I can't just go home and kick my feet up. I have to get home and cook and do other things. So just the idea that I have somebody that's looking up to me and just setting that goal for myself where I began this and I'm going to finish it and I'm going to do the best that I can every step of the way is pretty much the motto that I have to wake up with every day, because it does get hard. It gets hard when, you have exams back to back and have to show up to school and put on a smile at home so that you're not the Grinch.
Yeah.
It's tough at times, but it's just staying focused and taking one step at a time. That's the best advice that I can give anyone who has kids in pharmacy school.
Yeah, I heard the trouble tree where you come home and you put your troubles on the trouble tree before you walk in. Because you don't want to go in and see your kids and your family and just be like, well, I just had a really bad day and I want to tell you all about it and I want to take it out on you. And in some way you have to kind of just say, okay, that happened. I'm going to compartmentalize that part of my life. Have you heard about the pharmacist moms group? I didn't know if pharmacy students maybe should be in that group as well, because that group is, I think, oh my gosh, it's in the thousands.
Really?
Yeah. And it's, I can't remember the name of the person exactly. Susie Solomon was the name of the person who started it, and it blew up. So I might check out Pharmacist Moms Group to say, hey, I'm a pharmacy student, but I'm going to be a pharmacist mom, and maybe, I can get something, because my understanding is that group does a really good job of networking and talking about jobs and if somebody, has to move and just all kinds of things. But just a tremendous resource I've heard for moms. And maybe I should start the Pharmacist Dads group because we have no parachute, we have no net, right now. Well,
it's definitely hard.
Well, so I've heard a lot about, the podcast. I've heard a lot about you. What do you see in the future for yourself and maybe some of your classmates? We hear good things, we hear bad things about pharmacy, but it sounds like there could be one pharmacy job in the country and you would be the one that is going to get it. So tell me a little bit about what you see for the future.
Well, definitely, since I started pharmacy, I've always heard, we have too many pharmacy schools, we have too many pharmacists, there's not going to be any jobs. I don't believe it, because the profession can only go forward. I don't see pharmacy going backwards, because, look at all the people in legislative days and fighting for the profession and provider status. And it's just, we're so eager and we care about our patients. And I think that's the main thing. Jobs are going to be there. I have no doubt about that. Patients need our care. And the further we go with providing great patient care, we're securing jobs for ourselves. And machines don't really scare me, because that patient interaction and that what we provide as humans, that's never going to go away. And for myself, I plan to do the hospital route. Hopefully I get a job when I graduate. We will see with Pharmacy Future Leaders. I would love to stay on the podcast. I love to talk. I love to meet new people. I would love to network and help other students who maybe come from different countries or who don't have anyone to ask questions to. I'd love to be that beacon for them. And I don't know, maybe I might end up doing talks, and God knows. I don't set my limits for myself, because the sky is the limit. Honestly, with knowledge and good attitude, I feel like you can get anywhere. And that's what I'm putting my eggs into.
Yeah, you could. I think Michelle Obama could have probably paid off your student loans with a single speech. Well, I have asked you a ton of questions. Is there anything that you want to say before we sign off that you really feel passionate about, or in terms of Nova Southeastern, Dr. Kajelson, any shout outs to classmates, anything, any final thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. A shout out to Nova Southeastern class of 2020. We're all in this together, and we've definitely helped each other in everything. And I want to say to students listening, don't be afraid. Ask for help. Go to your nearest pharmacist. Ask them. Knowledge is something that you can never get enough of. And I've noticed this, and I continue to notice. The more that I speak to people, the more I learn. I get a little piece of information from every single person I have a conversation with. And for Pharmacy Future Leaders, I really hope that we can pass the torch on once I'm done to another school whose passion for the profession is as big as mine is. And I just want to see the profession grow. And I don't know, I'm just super excited to where we're headed and excited to graduate and bring a lot of great things to the profession as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being on the Pharmacy Leaders podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Support for this episode comes from Goodnight Pharmacology, 350 brand and generic name drugs with classifications, a leading resource for students in the United States, United Kingdom, and Australia. Print, ebook, and audiobook available on Audible, iTunes, and Amazon.com. Thank you for listening to the Pharmacy Leaders Podcast with your host, Tony Guerra. Be sure to share the show with the hashtag #PharmacyLeaders.